There's an approximately 700-year-old poem that goes something like, "For want of a nail, a shoe was lost. For want of a shoe, a horse was lost. For want of a soldier, a battle was lost," and so on until a kingdom is lost. As any supply chain manager will tell you, the supply chain is only as strong as its weakest link. A lot of big companies rely on small companies for very specialized items. Now, these could be either components of a larger product, or they can be sacrificial. Sacrificial means something is used in the manufacturing process, then discarded. The general public never sees it. Now, a lot of these products are sole sourced. It doesn't sound prudent, but once you get through the development process, going from prototype to bench to production, proven design, it takes several iterations, and it's not easy. It's kind of like dealing with printing plates. A lot of places that have sophisticated graphics only have one set of plates. That's because there's a lot of acrimony in the back and forth between the customer, the printer, and the graphic designer. Once it's done, you just don't want to go through that again until you're forced. More on this later. I'm going to show you some examples of some of the little things that we make, which, as it turns out, play a pretty big role in our lives, things that we really need. Here's the background. Back in March, we got the first of several, actually about 17 letters stating that we are essential. We thought this was a joke at the first. We thought, how can this be? I mean, plastics is the scourge of the planet. How could we be essential? I mean, this is coming from the CISA. What is that? We never even heard of this agency. The letter came from General Mills, and as it turns out, one little thing that we make is essential to their operations. It's this tube which goes from one bin to another. Drain goes through, and it's used for a convenient walk-by inspection. Clear plastic gets abraded over time, so it makes more sense to just use this, replace it every month or 6 weeks. I'm going to show you some other things besides food. They're basically food and medical. Time and non-disclosure agreements doesn't allow me to go through all of them. This very thick plastic is made for ostomy bags. There's a lot more to it than meets the eye again. We have a plastic which has been made to replace PVC, had to be welded by different means than traditional PVC welding. So it took a while to find the right plastic, get the right thickness, and get all these things done. Another thing that this is used for is for what's called an underpatient capillary blanket. It's not really a blanket, but there's really a lacuna in the language. Operatories are kept cold for a reason. It's really easy to develop a sweat, as I'm doing right now, just after a few minutes. I mean, if you're a surgeon, you can't just say, "Oh, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to doff all this stuff and literally go chill. Oh, I need a break." No, you can't do that. So you got to keep the operatory cold. And this is it's a maze of water that goes in and out of your hot, and it keeps the patient from getting cold. This is just for illustration purposes. Of course, we're making this plastic for level 3 isolation gowns as fast as we can make it. And this is something we've made for a long time. This is an ophthalmic drape. There's a fenestration here. And this plastic is used to catch the fluid. There's a lot of it generated in the course of any ophthalmic procedure. Something else that's not medical, not food, is this tube. It's a very precision diameter. We sell it to a company in Mexico who makes fibers out of different kinds of polymers. This has approximately 50,000 little fibers in here, and they use this to count how many fibers they have. If this is off even 1/8 of an inch in diameter, they reject it because they don't know what their yields are. It goes into not only toothbrushes and scrub brushes, but other brushes for medical devices and tubes, test tubes, and who knows what. This is something we've made for a long time. It's used for either putting meat in, think Salisbury steak, think chicken sandwich. You can also tipper tie it at one end, put all your ingredients in, pasteurize it, keep it ready until you need it for a big vat of soup or who knows what. You just cut it, strip it, throw it in, discard the plastic. Sacrificial. Something else that we make, which is apparently pretty hard to do, is this good old narrow width tubing, which has a very precise width. Gets laminated to craft paper in big rolls. We have to make the footage on our rolls the same as the craft paper, so it all comes out perfect. And then that gets made into this part here of what's called a multi-wall bag. It's just like a concrete bag, and there's a tube that fills it, pushes the ingredients in with a lot of air. The air gets evacuated and then the bag just falls down. A lot more things than dextrose go into these bags. Vitamin C, a lot of other specialized chemicals that go into not only food, but goes into vitamins and nutraceuticals. Well, what's going to happen if something happens to interrupt us or other suppliers of different things besides plastic for the food chain? I mean, there's other outfits to take up the slack, other sources. I mean, in North America alone, there are something like 5,000 blown film lines. In the world, there are 27,000 that we've identified. So it shouldn't be hard to find another one. Well, two problems. One, the learning curve, several iterations, time, and the other one is capacity. Right now, September 2020, the industry is very busy. We have approximately 70 to 80% capacity utilization. If the government hits us with a need for an incredible number of level 3 isolation gowns, it's going to put a strain on the capacity even more. Well, what's going to happen? Who knows? The economist Murphy said it best, that if something can go wrong, it will go wrong at the worst possible minute. In the words of the Zen master, we'll see. Meantime, fingers crossed.